What is going on, friends? Welcome back to another episode of Beneath the Beats. Today, we have a good episode. The Dave Grohl of Nirvana versus the Taylor Hawkins of the Foo Fighters. We all have a story of what got us hooked on either Dave's playing or Taylor's playing. Maybe it was the intro to Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. Perhaps it was the intro drumming in Low by the Foo Fighters. In this episode, I have chosen two of their most iconic drum setups, in my opinion. One from Dave, one from Taylor. And we're going to look at some vision and discuss their playing styles. And then I want to hear what you think. Are you really Team Dave or are you really Team Taylor? Let's get stuck into it. The first is his energetic live performance and stage presence. And you'll see that in this clip here. Funnily enough, he's in a battle with Dave Grohl, but Dave's on the guitar this time. Absolute beast. Like, how's that for energy? We're also going to be looking at this particular drum kit later on, so stick around. The second superpower of Taylor's I'd like to highlight today is his ability to create illusions with his drum solos and drum fills. And that was evident in the way he used his triplets in drum solos and fills. It's like he threw an extra note in here and there to the groupings. And you'll see that in this clip of a live drum solo. Here he goes. Like, it's just chaotic, but controlled chaos. Some people used to say they thought he had a double kick. It sounds that rad. The other Taylor Hawkins ability I'd like to discuss today is his musicianship around the drum kits. You know, he would throw in a set of concert toms or tambourines or cowbells, and it would just really add another dynamic to a drum solo or fill. But it was done tastefully. And you'll see that here in a sound check clip where he's using those concert toms. Ooh, so punchy. You can even hear the echo in this arena. There's an example of those concert toms in use. Alright friends, now to the Dave Grohl side of the argument, and the first superpower we're going to discuss today is Dave's ability to apply brute force to the drums whilst maintaining control. You'll see this here in a drum off with Taylor Hawkins as he's ripping these triplets, you know, smacking those drums, but still control. The second superpower of Dave's is his ability to hook audiences with his drum parts. And I know we're discussing Dave from Nirvana today, but it would have been rude of me not to throw in some of his work from Queens of the Stone Age. And I'm talking about a drum intro from A Song for the Dead. And here's me attempting that. Absolutely iconic. You'll also hear his drum hooks in Smells Like Teen Spirit, which absolutely grabs you from the start. Like, that drum part in that song, it made up a huge part of its success in my opinion. Another powerful trait of Dave's is his ability to drive the band forward but still stay locked in. And an example of this is, say, In Bloom by Nirvana. All right, friends, it's time to take a look at both these players' drum setups, and I've chosen Dave's kit from Live at the Paramount with Nirvana in 1991, and for Taylor, I have chosen his kit from the 1x1 tour in 2003 with the Foo Fighters. And you may have seen this kit on the live DVD Everywhere But Home, which is an iconic concert from Toronto. But anyway, let's get stuck into Taylor's drum kit. And as you can see here, it is an absolute beautiful black Tama kit with the Foo Fighters logo, the early 2000s Foo Fighters logo here on the kick drum. And I have built this as close to spec as possible. Obviously, there's a couple of things here that might not be 100% because these players were prone to changing things from show to show. And we're going to start with the kick drum. It is a 24 by 18 kick, so massive kick drum. You know, like these days, people are getting shallower with their kick drums, but back then, you know, players seem to use these 18 cannon kick drums, and that is a lot of air to move around, you know. Hey, it works, and it looks good in a big arena show. So we step up to here on the rack tom. So I saw Taylor use two different sizing rack toms on this tour. This one here is a 13 by 11, and that's one based off what he was using at the Lowlands Festival in 2003. But on the Everywhere But Home DVD, it looks like he was using a 13 by 9. So that might have been common for him to change that sizing show to show. I'm not sure what Tama did with that, with his kits and provided him with extra drums. But yeah, big rack tom. And it looks great too, aesthetically, with this big kick drum. Up here is my favorite. This is the 8x8 concert tom. Now that sizing is unconfirmed, but I'm pretty sure, just looking at the vision, if we look back here at this vision from Lowlands, what do you guys think? Is that a 8x8? It looks like an 8x8, and that is a common sizing for these concert toms, that 8. The way he used this concert tom on the tour sounded unreal, particularly in songs like Low and ending songs with big drum solos. That came into play a lot, that little concert tom there. In my opinion, one of the stars of this drum kit. So as we head down here, we have two floor toms, and this one is a 16 by 16 floor, and then an 18 by 16 floor, common sizing for Taylor, and he used those two sizings throughout his career with multiple tours and different drum kits. We'll step around to the snare drum, this one here. So this one is a 14 by 6.5 shell. Now, I could not confirm the exact make, but I do know he was commonly using brass snares. Tama at this time. So yeah, a brass snare by the looks. He might have used other different shells, so if anyone knows any more information, feel free to share that one in the comments. And now we go over to this drum here. Now, this program that I use, Drumstructor, to build this drum wouldn't allow me to build a rototom. So this is as close to a rototom as I could get. So shout out to Drumstructor. Yeah, this is a 14-inch rototom. And you know what? I didn't even know what a rototom was when I was younger until I watched this concert with Taylor Hawkins. And I all of a sudden became obsessed with rototoms. I reckon we bring back the rototoms. I don't see them enough on the local circuit or even in general. Where the did the rototoms go? Bring them back. All right, so that's a rototom. Sounds rad in drum solos that Taylor does live on this tour. Let's step up to his cymbals. And as we all know, Taylor has been a long time Zildjian player. And this particular cymbal setup, yeah, I just think is aesthetically one of his best. You know, he has the cymbals really high here, as you'll see, and, you know, different dynamics with the sizing. But, yeah, they look really cool when he reaches up and hits them. It's a bit more fun. It's a bit more theatrical and showy, and I love it. Now, let's start over with the hi-hat. So this here, typically he would use 15 new beat hi-hats based on what he commonly used around this time. Up here, I couldn't get a clear answer on exactly what sizing those cymbals are, but I just went off, you know, some articles of what he typically uses and kind of matched them sonically. And just even watching the show and listening to the different sounds and, you know, the high pitching and the low pitching, this is what I could generate. So over here, we are starting with an A Custom 18 crash. The A Customs being a more brilliant cymbal, create that, you know, that higher pitch and really cut through the noise. So when you know, Foo Fighters playing live with the big amps and the guitars, perfect cymbals for that. Over here, we're going to go a 19 and then the 20. So yeah, sonically that would make sense with the sizing. All right, so stepping down to the ride cymbal here, I am rolling with anything between a 21 to a 23 A-Suite ride. Now, Taylor was known to use this series. This is a more traditional finish, so it's a different dynamic to the Brilliant finish up top, and sonically that would make sense. It gives a bit of balance. So that's what I'm rolling with this. And as we step up here, we have another crash cymbal on the right side of Taylor here. This also seemed to be a traditional finish, so I'm just going to go with the A series there. So not the Brilliant A Custom, this is the A series. And again, it goes back to that different dynamic between the cymbals. You know, he's got the darker tones coming from down here and the higher cutty tones up the top. And I think that's super cool. You know, that's a good dynamic there. As I said, these aren't completely 100% confirmed, and there wasn't a lot of information to confirm this from this particular run of shows. And this was subject to change from time to time, like any player with their set and experimentation. Up here, we have a China cymbal, which is up pretty high too, as you'll see. And this is also looked to be an A Custom or A Series China cymbal. And it looked to be around the 20-inch range. So yeah, big China cymbal. But you also saw Taylor use this sizing at 2006 Hyde Park, which is that famous concert too. So I think that's a pretty cool selection of cymbals there. He did have a couple of percussion add-ons there. So we have the LP jam block over here with that medium jam block, which is the red one. And then some sort of cowbell to the right of him. Not sure the model or the make or the branding. I know LP makes some really good percussive instruments. So, all right, we're going to take a look at what drum heads Taylor was using on this kit. So starting with the toms, we have Emperor coateds here. So they are double ply, so a bit of a thicker head, and makes sense with the big open rock tuning and the way Taylor attacks his drums. On the bottom, typically Remo Ambassador clears. These make really good resonant heads with the Emperors, and that's what I use too, and I love that combination. We go over here, typically on his kick drums, a Remo P3 clear on the kick on the batter side. Can't really confirm what he's using on the reso there. Over here on the Rototom, typically a pinstripe, no resonant side with the Remo Rototoms, which gives it that really neat sound. Taylor potentially used a couple of different snare heads. I'm going to roll with the Emperor X coated, just simply because they're a bit of a thicker head, but yeah, cannot confirm 100% what he was using on this concert. So being a Tama player, all Tama hardware. Tama's higher end kick pedal range is the Iron Cobra, so I'm going to roll with that on the single kick. That rounds out Taylor's drum setup. If you guys want to check out these kits and play around with them, my tag on Drum Structure is Beneath the Beats. I've got a few kits on there and I'm building up my catalog now. But yeah, that is what I have for Taylor's 2003 1x1 set. So before we start Dave's drum set, shout out to this user on Drumstructor. I'm highlighting this person's drum set because they just did such a great job. We are looking at a Tama Grand Star Birch, and this is Firestorm Red from Live at the Paramount with Nirvana in 1991. And have a look at this kit straight away. Look at the size of that rack tom. Oh my gosh. I love seeing Dave use floor toms as rack toms. But yeah, as you can see, a lot smaller than Taylor's setup. Nice and tight, high cymbals. So let's start with the kick drum here. So this one is a 24x16 and what appears to not have a resonant side head. Now this is an interesting choice from Dave to use no resonant head, but makes sense because you're going to get more attack, you're going to get faster decay and more thump, which is perfect for Nirvana's live performance. You know, with a resonant head, the drum tends to sing a bit more. There's a bit, you know, a longer decay, and, you know, the attack is the big thing here for Dave, and it would fit in well with the mix of Nirvana's set. You got the mic sticking right into the bass drum. That is punk rock, man. All right. Enough of the kick drum. Let's step up to the rack tom. This, my friends, is a 15x14 depth rack tom. So mammoth rack tom there. Pretty much a freaking floor tom. Then we go down to the floor tom, which is in fact an 18x16. So So yeah, pretty big drums, pretty big tubs right there for big Davey boy. We'll go around here to the snare drum, and this is a 14x8. Dave's used a variety of snares, you know, he's used the Tama bell brass. This one seemed to look like a birchwood, so a wooden shell, and apparently one of his main choices from, you know, 91 to 92. So that rounds out the drums of Dave. Let's step up to the cymbals. And like Taylor, a Zildjian player, and he has two crashes, a ride and a hi-hat. So we'll start with the hi-hats, usually around that 15-inch. So I'm going to roll here with the Zildjian 15 new beat hi-hats. A little bit of guessing game here based on the stuff available online. There isn't really a lot. Up here we have a crash cymbal, which is the first crash, which is an 18A series crash, and what seems to be traditional finish. We step over here to a 20-inch on the right of Dave, and look at how high these crashes are. I mean, lucky the dude had long arms. Down here, the ride cymbal, we have a 22A medium ride. Have a look at the height of his hi-hat stand. I'd hate to think the amount of drumsticks Dave went through, but just by that angle, you know, you're smacking the stick at that angle, you are going to break a few drumsticks. So I was reading something that they actually couldn't get a Tama hi-hat stand that would go high enough for Dave. So they actually had to search out and found a model made by Sonar that could actually get high enough to which Dave required it. That leads us to the drum heads. He is using the Remo controlled sound black dot drum heads here on his toms and on the kick drum here too. So Dave's snare head is interesting. There was some information floating around out there about an Aquarian drum head, simply because it was thick enough and it wouldn't break. And Dave absolutely pounding his drum kit. You can imagine how many snare heads he'd go through if he was using, say, a one-ply drum head or something like that. But Aquarian obviously filled the gap in this department. So, yeah, you can see that logo in the Vision too. So Aquarian on the snare, and I'm going to guess a Ambassador on the bottom or something like that. Now, all Tama hardware. As for Dave's kick drum pedal, not much information out there, but I'm guessing, being a Tama player, he was using a Tama Camco, which was the model before Iron Cobra, I'm pretty sure. So I think it's a HP 35, and that was the top tier Tama pedal line of the time, you know, those early 90s times. And then obviously they went on to make Iron Cobra. So that rounds out Dave's kit. The time has come. Are you still Team Dave Grohl, or are you still Team Taylor Hawkins? And has any of this information in the video today made you change your mind and switch teams? We'd love to hear it in the comments. I'm going to say I am Team Taylor every day in this battle. I just think he was the most amazing rock drummer that ever lived. I know there's going to be comments about John Bonham and whatnot, but for me, he was a mega influence ever since I saw that 2003 Everywhere But Home DVD, which is what that kit was based off in this video. He was at his absolute peak there. His musicality behind the drums, his theatrical playing live, his energy live, and you know, his really creative drum solos and work on all the Foo Fighters records. I just think he was a bit more rounded than Dave. And I mean, we can talk Dave Grohl all day. The guy obviously is an amazing musician and an amazing guitarist too. Like, the guy's a beast. But yeah, Taylor for me takes the cake. But yeah, we're all going to have our own stories of what got us into Nirvana and the Foo Fighters and Dave and Taylor. Which drummer do you choose and why? Taylor is obviously greatly missed in the world of music and in general. The guy's legacy will live on for generations. It's really good to see Shane Hawkins really rising up now, and you know, he'd be doing his dad proud with what he's producing. But let's keep this conversation going, guys. Like and subscribe to see more. I'm going to be producing more videos like this, and even offer some suggestions in the comments. We'd love to hear it. Who are your favorite drummers at the moment? But until next time, rock on. See you guys.